Hey guys, this is Andrei, a certified translator and a real estate concierge here in Minsk, Belarus. Probably ex-tour guide by now. It's now February. A lot of things have happened since we saw each other last time, since the last release of the COVID update a few weeks ago. And this is the next COVID and politics update from Belarus. This is a very biased, very unrelated, very subjective digest of the local headlines, everything that happened within the last couple of weeks, something worth of your attention, something that may affect or help your decision to move to Belarus or not to move to Belarus, or at least perhaps to travel. Let's see what happened in the last few days. The most important thing is the virus, of course. Omicron is dominating our menu these days, and daily we have over 2,000 cases of the disease registered across Belarus. Seems not so much, but in many organizations, especially public organization, personnel is rumored to be, well, not totally done and down with the thing, but a lot of people are sick and processes are not as smooth as before COVID. So even this has to be taken into account when you are about to run a real estate deal, for instance. People would say that, guys, let's allow for COVID, whatever things may happen, and let's add a week or two to our potential deadline. As before, we have 15 or 16 dead persons a day registered as deaths from COVID, and that's just as bad as it gets. In a daily life, COVID doesn't exist. There are no masks enforced anywhere. Maybe in just some public offices you may have to wear a mask when the bureaucrat insists so. This morning I was at the airport filing an invitation for someone's visa to be collected on arrival at the consulate at the airport, not to be confused with the visa-free travel. The first applicant was politely kicked out of the office towards the pharmacy to get a mask. I had mine in my pocket with some mileage on it, but that was okay. So sometimes they will make you get one, but neither in public transport nor in the restaurants, nobody really wears them, and they're not really enforced. Neither are the vaccines. Travel here is only restricted by means of European sanctions. The only flights available are via Georgia, Dubai, Istanbul and Moscow. Flying via Russia, you'd need a visa, Russian transit visa most likely. Double check that before you buy the cheap ticket. And to come overland, of course, you'd need a visa, and business visa is one of the few ways to save money on a flight. If you're interested in that thing, if you have any technical questions, please contact me directly. My contacts are underneath this video in the video description. Last but not least, people coming with, basically people coming in general are exempt from self-isolation now. It doesn't have to be a business visit or anything like this. And to leave, you just have to have a PCR. That's it, but again, double check the requirements for your specific case against the reliable official sources. The sanctions have started to work, so from this year on, Lithuanian Railway is not transiting Belarusian potash into the harbors to be unloaded into the boats to reach the international clients. This is one of the first examples of how European sanctions are, or let's say Western sanctions are being applied. The transit has stopped. The budget is not going to get some hard currency, which will affect the economy and the population in a certain way. We will see which way. We'll also see which niches where Belarus had some shares of the market are going to be filled by the competition. A bit of rumors. It's hard to judge on the Ukrainian-Russian conflict, which is brewing up mostly in the Western media, I understand mostly in the US media. I'm glad they're not hitting either of these countries to look for weapons of mass destruction, according to their intelligence sources. There are some tensions, there are some negotiations between Russia and the US right now. There's some exercise underway in Belarus, winter exercise between Russia and Belarus, and the constant bragging, I guess is the verb, of the Western media about Russia rebuilding the Soviet Union this way, Russia going to attack Ukraine, diplomats having to leave the country. Guys, this is one of the perhaps most interesting debates. What do you think? How likely is the war with Ukraine, given that the occupation of Crimea pretty much affected the Russia's budget and the ruble basically collapsed twofold? The ruble rate dropped twofold after 2014. And how digestible is the whole country of Ukraine, which is definitely not going to take that friendly, is going to be how realistic this is. I would bet $100, guys, by the end of this year, if that the invasion is not going to take place and nothing like a war is possible here in this region, because it may be the last war that we will actually witness. Tell me in the comments, what do you think on this cause? In light of this rumor that keeps brewing up, the US apparently is moving its embassy personnel out of Belarus, and personnel being quite short-handed, that's like half a dozen people, diplomats, plus the local staff. I don't think it's any efficient to actually move the goddamn people off their well-fixed spots, their positions, their lives, and alter that just for the sake of the media conflict, which doesn't seem to have anything behind it. But they know better. As a local, on an everyday basis, I don't consult with the headquarters or something like that. I would like to say that there is no tension, there are no lines in the shops to get the first top important supplies, tinned food and stuff like that. Everything goes as it normally does, and people just have their everyday problems. There's nothing like war in the air or any feeling of it or something like that. As you probably know, in late February, on the 27th, we are having a vote for the Constitution amendments, and it's an interesting thing. There seems like 10 major changes to the current Constitution that are subject to a vote, and of course there are no oppositional observers invited or fixed to observe the run of the elections. Election is going to take place, and the general feeling is that ruble exchange rate may become less stable against euro and dollar by March, so prices may go up in rubles. And those who have dollars or euro to spend may be in a favorable position, but that's just a feeling, a tradition, so to speak, according to which before elections everything is sweet and the electorate is happy. After elections, nobody really cares what they voted for, because they have their own agenda growing daily. From March the 1st this year, pensions are to go up. The increase is going to be 6.3%. which is about twice as little as the annual inflation for 2021, so may not be very helpful. I would hate to be trying to explain this increase of pensions by the drop of the number of pensioners, but clearly this is the case. Notaries in Minsk, for instance, have a pretty tough backlog of clients who are processing their will paperwork just because of the pretty massive wave of deaths, essentially. So this is happening. May I remind you that the average pension for a pensioner, for a retired person in Belarus, is 580 Belarusian rubles now, and a month, and the retirement age for the women is 60, and for men is 63. Average life expectancy by some sources for men is about 64, 65. Some quote 68, 69. This was brought up when they justified the increase of the retirement age for men. Like, men started to live longer, so why wouldn't they work a little bit more? The Olympics in China is about to happen, and our beloved president has not been invited to attend. My question to the audience here is, guys, somebody told me that pretty recent local conflicts occurred during the Olympics, the time of peace, historically, of course. So what do you think is the likelihood of Chinese-Taiwan conflict or another conflict that may occur during the Olympics? What do you think about that? Where may this happen, and where this might lead? Put your opinion in the comments. It would be really interesting to have a look at it. The State Department of Belarus, on top of the evac order for the diplomatic personnel, has recommended US citizens not to travel to Belarus, which comes on top of the June ban by Biden to sell air tickets to Belarus. So any booking firm in America, any travel agency cannot sell you direct flights to Minsk. So, like I said previously, any reasonable traveler would just book his way to Istanbul and will find a way to book a flight from Istanbul down to Minsk and backwards without any problem. So there's no actual ban for Americans to travel somewhere. It's unconstitutional, for starters. Secondly, it's just about getting a visa, and most likely you may want to consider, if you're a US citizen, you may want to consider a travel here after March, when the election is done and maybe when all this BS storm about the war with Ukraine passes, a little bit dies down. And if we try to be positive by the end of this broadcast, we may recall that February is the last month of winter. There may be some snow, a little bit of chill, but generally weather is improving and spring is quite soon. And the bridge in central Minsk over the Nemiga is going to be restored soon. In a couple of weeks, the traffic will be back to normal. So if you were planning to visit Belarus, and if you are fond of destinations that are off the beaten track, you may throw in Belarus into your travel plans. Of course, travel wisely, and if you are to look for real estate to buy, shop wisely as well. This was Andrei from Minsk. Thank you very much for watching the channel. Thank you for supporting. Any questions, any technical questions on traveling here are welcome under the video, or send me a direct message. Thank you for donating to the channel. $10, $20, whatever you can, will help to improve the sound and the picture. I realize this is a bit boring here, but the weather is so chilly that it's a bit tricky to drag the camera out and get you some sweeter backgrounds. But I'll do that for the next release. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you in Minsk. Cheers. Bye. A couple of days ago, across the country, people reported horrendous queues to the doctors, GPs and other doctors at their local polyclinics. For those who don't really know about our healthcare system, I would like to point out that people here have state-sponsored, free of charge, theoretically free of charge, healthcare, and normally they have to go in person to some doctor, normally GP, to get some certificate that they're okay, that they have recovered, to take a sick leave, which will be then paid by the company, and so on and so forth. So some bureaucrats explain these lines where you have to be for 3 or 4 hours by the beginning of the month, when people realize that they have some deadlines to meet, some examinations to pass or tests or something. And generally, with the cases of COVID going up and flu taking its toll as well, the waiting time is increasing. And it's not just about polyclinics, but they promised to resolve the situation within a matter of days. Didn't quite work out.